Ash over Cora's sky. The sky above Cora Prime had been gray for so long that Vera could not remember the last time she had seen a true sunrise. Ash fell like snow, whispering down from the broken clouds. The air stank of burnt metal and scorched flesh. In the ruins of the once great capital, shattered spires leaned like snapped bones, and the wind carried the hollow groans of distant wreckage. Vera crouched low in the rubble of an old marketplace, her breathing shallow, her four-fingered, hands pressed tight to the cracked stone. Across the plaza, black-armored soldiers of the Droken Dominion moved in patrols. Their insectoid frames clinked with segmented plating, their helmet lenses glinting red. Anyone caught outside after curfew didn't come back. She wasn't supposed to be here, but she had to find medicine for her brother. The Dominion's raids had destroyed most of the clinics, and what little remained was hoarded by the occupation forces. A crunch of boots made her freeze. Not Droken, heavier steps, with a faint clink. She turned her head just enough to see him. The human. He was tall, taller than most Droken, but broad and solid in a way that spoke of gravity from a heavier world. His armor was battered but functional, mismatched plates strapped over. Dark fabric. A rifle slung across his back, a sidearm at his hip, and a strange pack that hummed faintly on his shoulders. She had heard whispers of him from other survivors. The off-world mercenary, the stubborn one who wouldn't leave. The human. He was picking through debris with deliberate slowness, his movements careful, scanning for something. His face was hidden by a half-mask that filtered the ash from the air, but his eyes, sharp, pale gray, caught hers. Vera's pulse spiked. She could run. She could hide. Humans were dangerous. Everyone knew that, but he didn't raise his weapon. Instead, he lifted one hand, palm out, and spoke in accented but clear Quran. You don't belong here. And if the Dominion sees you, you're dead. Before she could answer, a Dominion skimmer swept low overhead, its engines screaming, searchlights stabbing into the ruins. The human grabbed her arm, firm but not rough, and pulled her into a collapsed archway. The light passed over them and moved on. Name, he said quietly. Vera, she whispered. He gave a single nod. Rourke, and you're lucky. I was here. Now, why are you risking your neck? She hesitated, then blurted out, My brother is sick. The med centers are gone. I heard. Maybe in the old transit depot. That depot's crawling with Droken, Rourke cut in, scanning the street. You'll never make it alone. I have to try. Something flickered in his gaze. Then he checked his rifle, muttering under his breath, Guess I'm going that way anyway. They moved through the ruins, keeping low, weaving between collapsed walls. The Dominion's occupation was suffocating. Patrols every block, drones in the air, snipers in the towers. Stole glances at him as they went. His movements were efficient, precise. Not reckless, but not afraid either. He had the look of someone who'd been through worse and survived. As they reached the depot's outer wall, the hum of engines grew louder. Rourke peered around the corner, then cursed softly. A full Droken squad was unloading crates from a gunship. And those crates, Vera's heart leapt. Medical seals. Dominion stockpiles. Enough medicine to save hundreds. She turned to Rourke. We have to get them. Not without backup, he said grimly. There's only one of me. A sudden crackle burst from the comm on his wrist. Static, then a human voice. Stormbreak team, this is Hammerflight. Drop inbound in 60 seconds. Make room. Vera stared at him. What was that? Rourke's eyes narrowed, and for the first time he smiled, slow and dangerous. That is help. Overhead, the clouds lit up with fire. Asterisk the thunder arrives. The ash clouds split open as if the heavens themselves had been torn apart. Weeks the skies over Cora Prime had been choked in smoke, but now streaks of blinding fire cut through the gray. Dropships, sleek, angular, and painted in mottled grays, plummeted toward the surface like spears hurled by an angry god. Vera staggered back, shielding her eyes. The Droken patrol froze mid-step, their antennae twitching in alarm. Rourke's voice was low but urgent. "When those boots hit the ground, this whole block will turn into a kill zone. We need cover now." The first human dropship punched through the haze, its thrusters roaring. The sound wasn't like Dominion craft. It was deeper, hungrier, a vibration that rattled in the chest. Its landing gear barely touched the cracked street before the ramp slammed open and armored figures stormed out. Vera had never seen soldiers like them. Their armor was heavier than Rourke's, matte black plating with white unit sigils on the shoulders. Their visors glowed a pale blue. Each carried a rifle longer than Vera's arm, moving with practiced precision. No shouting. No wasted motion. Just a coordinated sweep forward. The Droken squad reacted fast, chittering in their guttural tongue. Weapons rising, but the humans fired first. It wasn't the hiss of plasma she'd grown used to hearing. It was a sharp, thunderous crack that echoed between the ruins. The Dominion soldiers dropped one by one, armor pierced clean through. Rourke had his rifle up now, covering the humans' flank as they advanced. A figure at the front, taller than the rest, with a red-marked helmet, gestured toward the medical crates. "Rourke, is that the package?" "Yeah," he shouted back over the gunfire. "Got civs in the area. Handle with care." The commander's visor turned toward Vera, scanning her in a fraction of a second. Then he gave another signal. Two soldiers broke off, securing the crates with magnetic harnesses before hauling them back toward the dropship. The rest pressed forward, cutting down the remaining Droken. Vera's voice was barely a whisper. You called them here?" Rourke kept firing, eyes locked on the street ahead. "Not exactly. Stormbreak was already inbound. I just made sure they knew where to land." The fight lasted less than a minute. Then the street was silent. Again, except for the hum of human engines and the faint hiss of ash falling. Rourke stepped forward, his voice clipped. "We've got your meds. Let's get you and your brother out before the Dominion sends reinforcements." But the sky was still burning. Vera looked up, and her breath caught. Through the thinning ash, massive silhouettes moved in orbit. Not dropships. Warships. They were colossal, angular, bristling with weapon ports. Far larger than anything the Dominion had deployed here. The humans hadn't just sent soldiers. They'd sent a fleet. One of the ships, a long blade-shaped dreadnought, fired. The beam tore through the clouds, striking something beyond the horizon. A second later, the ground rumbled, a deep earthquake roll that made rubble dance in the street. Vera's voice trembled. "How many?" Rourke's answer was quiet, but certain. "Enough." Before she could speak again, the human commander strode over. Dominions scrambled air. "We've got maybe 5 minutes before we're swarmed." Rourke grabbed the sieve. "Haul her back to evac point Bravo. We'll cover." Rourke nodded, turning to her. "Move." They ran, weaving through half-collapsed buildings. The distant thump of artillery rolled through the air, mingled with the howl of engines. Somewhere above, Dominion fighters shrieked as they dove, but human a fire met them in bright arcs of destruction. As they rounded the corner toward a shattered avenue, a Dominion troop carrier came into view, and it was blocking the only clear route. Its side doors burst open, disgorging armored soldiers, weapons raised. Rourke yanked Vera down behind cover, teeth gritted. This is going to get ugly. He checked his rifle's magazine, half empty. The troop carrier's guns swiveled toward them. The commander's voice barked over comms. "Rourke, where the hell are you?" He answered with grim finality. "Pinned," and they brought toys. The carrier's cannons began to charge, a rising line, asterisk. Through fire and ash, the carrier's cannons glowed a sickly orange as their charge, built to lethal intensity. Vera pressed herself into the rubble, her heart hammering. She could feel the heat radiating from the weapon, even at this distance. The Droken soldiers were advancing in a tight wedge, their segmented armor clicking with each step. Rourke's eyes flicked between the carrier, the soldiers, and the fractured street ahead. He wasn't panicking. He was calculating. "When I say run, you run," he told her. "Don't look back. Don't stop. What about you?" she demanded. He gave a crooked grin that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm the one with the gun." The carrier's cannon reached full charge. The whine was now a piercing scream. Before the Droken could fire, the air above them split open. A streak of something. No, someone came hurtling down from the smoke-choked sky, trailing jets of blue-white fire. It slammed into the street between the humans and the Droken, with a shuddering WHAM that cracked the pavement. The figure that rose from the crater was armored head to toe, bulkier than Rourke or the ground troops she'd seen earlier. Twin barrels, mounted on each forearm, rotated with a mechanical snarl. The voice from the suit's external speakers boomed like thunder, Stormbreak heavy on station. The Droken opened fire instantly, plasma bolts slashing through the ash. The heavy trooper didn't even flinch. Their armor's kinetic plates absorbed the impacts in flashes of blue light. Then their forearm cannons spat back, a rapid, hammering roar that tore Droken apart like paper. The troop carrier's shields flared, then collapsed under the onslaught. One last burst, and the entire vehicle erupted into a fireball, shards of black armor tumbling end over end. Veyr had to shield her face from the heat. Rourke was already up and moving, grabbing her wrist. "Go, before the next wave gets here." They sprinted through the burning wreckage, smoke swirling around them. Overhead, human gunships darted through the ash like hunting birds, strafing Dominion positions with precise bursts. The city was alive with noise now. Weapons fire, engines, explosions. But underneath it all was something new, something Vera hadn't heard in years. Hope. They reached the evac point, a half-collapsed theater with the human sigil daubed in bright paint across its crumbling facade. Inside, soldiers moved with disciplined efficiency, tending to wounded, checking weapons, scanning the skies. Rourke led her to a medic, a compact woman with short-cropped hair and a scanner slung over her shoulder. "Civ, brother's sick. Needs whatever's in those med crates," he said without preamble. The medic nodded, already pulling a case from her kit. "We've got antibiotics, antivirals, full spectrum." "Where is he?" Vera swallowed. "North Quarter, 6 blocks past the collapsed tram line." The medic winced. "That's deep in the red zone." Rourke was already checking his rifle again. "Then I guess we're going shopping." The medic's eyes narrowed. "Command says stay in the green perimeter until we've got airlocked." "Down." "Command isn't looking my civ in the eye," Rourke said flatly. The medic stared at him for a long moment and shoved 2 vials into his hand. "If you die, I'm telling her it's your fault," he smirked. "Fair enough." They slipped out the back of the theater, avoiding the main streets where Dominion forces were regrouping. Every step toward the North Quarter was harder. Patrols heavier, gunfire closer, smoke thicker dot in the distance. The horizon glowed red. Vera knew that glow. The refinery district was burning. They were 3 blocks from the tram line when the cum in Rourke's ear crackled. "All units. Be advised, Dominion Titans inbound." "I repeat, Titans inbound." Rourke froze for half a heartbeat. Vera's voice was barely audible. "What's a Titan?" He met her gaze, jaw tightening. Big and bad. The ground began to shake. Asterisk. The Titan walks. The tremors grew with each step. Loose stones rattled. A nearby wall shed a trickle of dust. Then Vera heard it. A deep, metallic thum that echoed through the ruins like a drumbeat of doom. They turned the corner, and there it was. The Titan was unlike anything she had ever seen. 4 legs, each as thick as a building's support column, crushed the street beneath their weight. Its armored body rose 3 stories high, bristling with plasma batteries and missile racks. The forward hull carried a massive rotary cannon that spun lazily, as if daring the world to step in front of it. Every step sent another shiver through. The ground. The air around it shimmered with heat from its reactor. The Titan's head, a wedge of armor with 3 glowing sensor eyes, swept across the street, scanning. When those eyes passed over a half-intact building, the cannon barked once, and the structure simply ceased to exist in a cloud of fire and pulverized stone. Vera's knees locked. How? How can you fight that? Rourke's gaze didn't waver. He tapped his comb. Stormbrink, this is Rourke. Got eyes on the Titan, North Quarter, Tramline Junction. Static, then. Copy, Rourke, Stormlands 1 en route. ETA 60. Seconds. Keep its attention. He muttered, Yeah, easy for you to say, and pulled her behind the rusting frame of an old freight hauler. The Titan's head swung their way. Its cannon spun faster, building a low, threatening whine. Rourke looked at her. When I move, you stay here, no matter what. Vera shook her head. You'll be... Just stay, he growled, and bolted into the open. He fired as he ran. Short, sharp bursts aimed at the Titan's sensor cluster. The bullets sparked, harmlessly off its shields, but it worked. The machine turned toward him, its steps quickening. The cannon roared. Chunks of pavement exploded in his wake, showers of molten debris filling the air. Vera could only watch, heart in her throat, as Rourke darted between wreckage, always just ahead of the Titan's aim. And the sound came high above the battle, cutting through the ash storm like a knife. A human gunship. No, bigger. A heavy strike craft with swept wings and a belly full of death. Its nose glowed with the energy buildup of a rail accelerator. It screamed overhead, loosing 2 spears of lightning bright metal. They struck the Titan's side with the sound of the world breaking. Armor peeled back in smoking shards. The Titan staggered, but didn't fall. Its rotary cannon shifted skyward, spewing plasma at the craft. The human pilot wasn't done. The strike craft banked hard, looping around for another pass. Rourke's voice snapped over comms. You've got 1 more shot before it tags you. Stormlands. Roger that. Lining up. Before the pilot could finish, a fresh noise ripped through the city. A deep hump that made Vera's ears ring. From the clouds above, a second Titan dropped into view. It landed with the force of an earthquake, smashing through what remained of the tramline station. The Dominion hadn't sent a Titan. They'd sent 2. Rourke dove for cover as both machines turned their guns toward the human's lone strike craft. Vera's chest felt tight. They'll destroy it. Rourke's gaze flicked skyward, then to his come. His voice was steady. Hammerflight, we need the hammer. Right now. A pause. And a reply that was more growl than words. Brace. The clouds above tore apart, not with fire this time, but with blinding white light. Something massive was descending. Asterisk. The hammer falls, the sky opened like a wound. Through the swirling ash and smoke, a shape emerged, impossibly large, blotting out what little light filtered through. It was not sleek like the dropships, nor swift like the strike craft. This was a leviathan of steel, its belly lined with siege cannons. its flanks bristling with missile pods. The name stenciled along its side was simple, brutal: HSS Thunderchild. Vera could feel it in her bones. This was no transport, no gunship. This was a weapon built to end fights. Rourke's cum crackled. Hammer flight actual to all ground units. Clear target zone. Clear it how? Rourke snapped. We're boxed in between two titans. The voice came back, calm as a glacier. Then duck. The Thunderchild's forward section began to glow. Not just the cannons, the whole spine of the ship. Lines of white-hot energy pulsed along its length, converging toward the forward lance battery. The air vibrated, a deep bass hum that rattled every loose stone in the street. Dominion Titans seemed to sense what was coming. Their sensor arrays flared red, and both machines fired upward in unison, lancing the sky with plasma dot. The Thunderchild didn't even try to dodge. The lance battery fired dot. It wasn't a beam, not in the way Vera had seen before. This was a column of lightning, thick as a building, that ripped downward with a sound like the planet itself screaming. The blast caught the first Titan dead center, shearing it clean in half. The shockwave hit a moment later, a wall of pressure and heat that flattened nearby walls and tossed rubble like dry leaves. Vera covered her head, teeth clenched against the roar. When she looked up, the first Titan was nothing but molten wreckage. The second Titan stumbled, its armor scorched. Before it could recover, the Thunderchild loosed a spread of kinetic missiles, the size of cargo pods. Each struck with bone-shattering force, hammering into joints, peeling away plates, punching through reactor shielding. One missile got through to the heart of the machine. Detonation was blinding. Silence followed. Not the silence of peace, the silence of stunned survival. Even the Dominion infantry froze, their alien eyes locked on the smoldering craters where their war machines had stood moments ago. Then the human cums erupted in cheers. Rourke didn't celebrate. He grabbed Vera's arm and yanked her toward a side alley. We've got maybe 90 seconds before the Dominion gets its senses back. Move! They weaved through firelit streets, the scent of scorched metal heavy in the air. Above, the Thunderchild was already shifting position, its engines carving burning tunnels through the clouds. They were almost at the collapsed tram line when the medic's voice cut through the calm. Rourke! Dominion reinforcements inbound. From the east, heavy infantry. You can't make it through on foot. Rourke slowed just enough to scan the street ahead and saw them. Black-armored Droken shock troops, 4 abreast, weapons gleaming. They hadn't been at the battle. They were fresh, and they were blocking the only path to her brother. Vera's throat tightened. If we turn back, we're not turning back, Rourke said, but we're not going through them either. He glanced upward at the shattered tram line. Steel beams hung twisted above the street, suspended by half-melted supports. His grin was sharp. We'll go over. Over the edge, the tram line towered over the street like the skeleton of some fallen giant. Twisted girders and cracked concrete. Supports leaned at impossible angles, swaying slightly in the hot wind. Below, the Dominion shock troops spread out, weapons sweeping, their chittering commands echoing between ruined walls. Rourke looked up at the wreckage, then at Vera. You? Afraid of heights? She gave a hollow laugh. After today, I'm afraid of everything. Good, he said, tightening the straps on his pack. Means you'll hold on tighter. They slipped into the shadows at the tramline's base, starting the climb. The metal was hot from the earlier bombardment, and ash made every handhold slick. Halfway up, the Dominion troops spotted them. A sharp crack of gunfire rang out as projectiles ricocheted off the beams near Rourke's head. He pressed himself against the structure, shouting down, "We're halfway. Keep moving." Vera's arms burned. Every muscle screamed at her to stop, but she forced herself upward, her fingers scraping raw against jagged steel. Then the whole structure shuddered. She froze, eyes wide. A Dominion skimmer was circling, its cannons chewing chunks from the tramline. Supports, pieces of metal fell away, clanging into the street far below. Rourke glanced down, then up toward a segment where the tramline's cables still held. We make it there. We zipline. No other way. They pushed on. Another burst from the skimmer's cannons shook the beams. Vera slipped. Her hand tore free from the metal, her body swinging into empty air. She screamed. Rourke's hand shot out, catching her wrist in a bruising grip. His voice was ragged, but firm. I've got you. Climb, damn it. She scrambled back, breath coming in sharp. Panicked bursts. At last, they reached the intact cable. Rourke pulled a coil of line from his pack, clipped it to the cable, and shoved a battered pulley into place. You first. Kick off hard. Keep your head low. Vera hesitated only a second before locking on and launching herself. The ruined city blurred beneath her, wind tearing at her hair. She hit the far platform hard, stumbling into a crouch. Rourke was right behind her, but as he zipped across, the skimmer swung back into view. Its pilot saw him. The cannons began to charge. Vera's scream tore from her throat. Rourke! The human ripped his sidearm free mid-slide, firing 3 times in rapid succession. The rounds hit the skimmer's intake, and the craft exploded in a blossom of fire. Rourke hit the platform and rolled, smoke rising behind him. He was grinning despite the soot. Told you. Over. From here, the north quarter spread out below, burning, broken, but visible. Somewhere in those ruins, her brother. Weighted. They descended the far side of the tramline, feet hitting cracked pavement. That's when Vera saw the shape in the street ahead. Not Dominion, a human figure, or what was left of one, slumped against a wall, armor cracked, visor shattered. Blood pooled beneath him. Rourke rushed forward, dropping to one knee. The man's lips moved weakly, his voice little more than a rasp. They're coming, bigger than before. Before Rourke could ask, the ground trembled again. Asterisk. The fury of the storm. The tremors this time were faster, heavier, not the slow, pounding steps of titans, but the synchronized march of hundreds. From the far end of the street, the Dominion came. Not scattered patrols, not small strike teams. An entire regiment of Droken shock troops, armor gleaming in the firelight, banners of black and crimson snapping above them. Behind them rolled armor columns, tracked war machines bristling with turrets. It was a wall of metal and mandibles, and it was coming straight for them. Rourke rose slowly from the wounded soldier's side. His voice over the comm was low, almost calm. Hammerflight, it's time. The reply came instantly, and it wasn't calm at all. Oh, we've been waiting for this. The skies lit up. Dozens, no, hundreds of human craft roared in from beyond the clouds, their afterburners streaking the ash with fire. Dropships, gunships, strike fighters, and above them all, the looming shadows of more dreadnoughts, sliding into low orbit, the air filled with the scream of jets and the thunder of cannon fire. Human artillery rounds rained down, punching holes in the Dominion formation before they could even raise their shields. Shockwaves tore through the street, hurling Droken soldiers into the air like ragdolls. The lead war machine fired once, before a railgun slug from orbit punched clean through it, ripping the vehicle apart in a shower of molten shrapnel. Vera's eyes were wide, her voice barely a whisper. It's like the storm itself came for them. Rourke grinned without looking at her. Nah, this is just humanity showing up. The battle became chaos. Human infantry surged forward, their armor flashing in the firelight, weapons arcing in short, disciplined bursts. Dominion lines broke under the pressure. Their war cries turning to panic got a squad of Stormbreak heavies moved like an unstoppable wall, clearing intersections with shoulder-mounted cannons. Above, fighters dueled in the burning sky, tracer rounds stitching across the clouds. Rourke grabbed Vera's arm and pushed through the chaos. "Your brother. Where?" She led him through side streets choked with smoke and bodies, ducking under broken beams, leaping over rubble. Finally, they reached a half-collapsed apartment block. Inside, her brother lay feverish and pale, eyes glassy. Rourke knelt, pulled the vials from his pack, and injected the first into the boy's arm. "He'll need rest, but this will break." "The fever. The rest's up to him." Vera's hands trembled as she touched her brother's cheek. Her eyes shone. You came all this way. Through all that?" Rourke shrugged, almost embarrassed. "Couldn't let you do it alone." Outside, the noise of battle faded. The Dominion was breaking, running, dying, or surrendering. From the street, a human voice called, "Sector secure. Cora Prime is ours." The words hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. For the first time in years, the city was free. Vera stepped to the doorway. The sky above was no longer choked with ash. The wind had shifted, carrying the gray away. Through the thinning clouds, sunlight spilled over the ruins. Human ships drifted overhead, their massive forms casting long shadows. But those shadows brought safety, not fear. She turned to Rourke. "When you came, I thought maybe one soldier couldn't change anything." He met her gaze, tired but smiling. "One soldier didn't? We all did." As the Thunderchild banked overhead, engines rumbling like distant thunder, Rourke tapped his comm. "Hammerflight, ground secure. Prep for Phase 2. The voice on the other end chuckled. "Copy that. Where to next?" Rourke looked out over the ruined city, then toward the horizon. Anywhere someone thinks no help is coming. Above them, the human fleet turned toward the next battle. Asterisk.